Did you do an amendment for the amount on oh, well, I guess it's 1.5 million or less.
Yeah,
So
it's
in
up
the,
to 1.5 million.
okay.
This expense
But like the ordinance fact sheet says like 1.455.
oh, the fact sheet.
That's what I was asking.
I will.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the Committee of the Whole to order for Tuesday, January 28th. We all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Gregory. Here. Alderman Williams. Here. Alderman Rockford. Here. Alderwoman Purchase.
Here.
Alderwoman Netrano.
Here.
Alderman Carlson. Here. Alderwoman Conley. Alderman Donlin.
Here.
Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Seeing no presentations this evening, we're going to move on to item number 4, approval of committee minutes. Is there a motion to approve the prior?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Ordinances or resolutions tabled or remaining in committee. Mr. Clerk.
Ordinance 2024-333. Ordinance 2024-540.
Anybody wish to act on any of those, either of those ordinances? Okay, moving right along. Mr. Clerk, ordinances for committee consideration. CWLP.
2025-018, an ordinance accepting bids and authorizing contract UW 251148, Quick Lime for a 2-year term with Mississippi Lime Company in amount not to exceed $3,345,300 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-019, an ordinance accepting proposal of number UE 2504 with InfoSend, Inc. for CWLP monthly bill printing and mail services in the amount not to exceed $2,545,668.80 for a 3-year term for the Office of Public Utilities.
Motion to consent. Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-020, an ordinance accepting proposal number UE 2508 with Hayes Power Services LLC for emergency boiler and equipment repairs for the 3-year term period in the amount not to exceed $12 million for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion from members of the council? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-021, an ordinance approving professional services agreement with KSB Durbrick in an amount not to exceed $26,422 for the performance audit of Unit 4 boiler feed pumps for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-022, an ordinance authorizing additional payment to Aaron Fox Schiff LLP as an outside counsel for the assistance with the coal combustion residual regulations for the utilities, flue gas desulfurization sludge landfill in the amount of $100,000 for the total amount not to exceed $195,000 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Motion for debate?
Motion Is there a second for the debate agenda? Any discussion?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Williams?
Is the director here?
And then Alderwoman, you're up next. Yeah.
So on this one, I remember a while back, we did an ordinance hiring outside lawyer. Is this associated with the old sum of money that we approved for a lawyer?
Was it an OBM earlier, right?
There's a couple different ones. I think you're probably thinking about the one we did for the lawsuit.
Yes. so
Yeah, this
that-
is different than that. This was just for some extra help dealing with US EPA on the ash ponds. That one was for the wastewater.
Okay, but this one is actually taking on the EPA again in a separate lawsuit or a different lawsuit?
I wouldn't, it's not a lawsuit, but we did have them come out and do an inspection and find some issues that they didn't agree with at the ash ponds and the landfill. And the law firm had been helping with the landfill piece because I was pretty overwhelmed with the ash pond piece because that's a lot more intensive. Then we had budgeted in October for some additional funds. This $100,000 was what I put in the budget for next year. But as it turned out, we were able to, things really sped up at the end of last year, at the end of this fiscal, and we were able to get all the issues worked out with US EPA. Got finalized last week. So I ran out of money on what I had budgeted for this year because more of the work was front-ended into this year versus next year. So that's why we're asking for more money now that will hopefully, I don't expect I'll need all that money next year that I budgeted. I think we should have things wrapped up, but in case there's some loose ends.
That's
make
all I
sense?
have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Natrano.
Thank you, Chair. Just quick, in my reading through it, it says that the legal services were going to be used for dealing with numerous requests and ongoing issues. Do you have any, could you give us a little more information about those numerous requests?
Can you show me where you're, I mean, I think I generally can explain that we were having a lot of back and forth with requests for information that we were having to respond to. I'm not sure how we worded that in what you're reading.
I don't recall if it was in this or if it was in the, I think it must be in.
I'm sure, I mean, it's okay. I'm sure
the-
that's generally
the
what I
discussion
meant.
sheet.
That,
Assistance with responding to UCB
Right.
correspondence.
Right, so you know, most of the landfill stuff focused on whether we had to follow the CCR rules versus the state landfill rules, and just a variety of additional information requests that they had. It's gone on for a couple of years, but there was definitely a big flurry of activity over like November, December.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gregory.
So real quick, the information that I'm reading here is the flue gas, I won't even try that, sludge landfill has been permitted by the Illinois EPA Protection Agency. The USPA disagrees with the utilities' interpretation that since the IEPA permits the landfill, it makes the utilities landfill exempt.
Right.
So basically, are we looking to comply with what they are, or we're looking to change their mind?
No.
All right, thank you.
I mean, we still kind of think we're exempt and that our program is just as good, but since the state doesn't have its own program specifically tailored to these type of landfills, we're just gonna go back and redo everything under their program for CCR landfills.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? On that note, there is a motion for the debate agenda and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, Public Works.
2025-023, an ordinance approving a plan for a large-scale development of Project Cardinal for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for consent. Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-024, an ordinance authorizing supplemental relocation expense in the amount not to exceed $5,352.74 for relocation of occupants and personal property located at parcel SR 0135-709 Barrett Street relating to the Springfield Rail Improvements Project for the Office of Public Works.
Move consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion from the council? Any discussion? Any
Yeah,
discussion?
I have
Alderwoman Natriano.
Quick question. So, this rail project, this ordinance reminds me of, there's a lot of uncertainty right now about money, grants coming from the federal government. Have you had a chance to look at if our rail project will be impacted?
I've read the memo that was released by the federal OMB, but the discussions of how that will impact all of our grants is ongoing at the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderwoman. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion on the floor is for the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-025, an ordinance authorizing professional services agreement with American Environmental Corporation for the completion of the Phase 2 report for the North Mansion Block to be submitted to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency for the amount not to exceed $49,368.05 for the Office of Public Works.
Motion for consent.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Alderman Gregory.
Yes, I just, clerk, you can add me as a co-sponsor. I support this.
I didn't hear you.
I say you can add me as a co-sponsor.
Okay.
I support this fully. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-026, an ordinance authorizing acceptance and execution of a grant 25-203392 for the Office of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity in the amount of $1,300,000 and authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $1,300,000 to be used for preliminary and design engineering services for the 3rd Street Greenway project.
Motion for debate?
Motion and a second for the debate agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. General city business, Mr. Clerk.
2025-027, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Section 30.04 of the 1988 City Code of Ordinances as amended pertaining to the appointment procedure to fill vacancies of the office of mayor, city treasurer, or city clerk.
Move to debate.
Motion and a second for the debate agenda. Alderman Gregory.
Yes, real quick, Corporation Council, if this shall pass, and we have a vacancy in any of these offices, particularly the clerk, would the deputy clerk or the deputy registrar take on the duties until then?
So not under this ordinance, that's something that we can add. Under this ordinance, there would be a vacancy that would not be filled until this procedure was in place.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Gregory, is that it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sorry.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thank you, Chair. I've got some concerns with this. My main concern is you almost have to break it up into separate the mayor's situation out. I'm concerned that you cannot leave, and I don't know if anyone's talked to the mayor, who also at one time was a treasurer, on what impact it would have for a long period of time for, to not have a person in that position. Things could, Mayor, I guess if you don't mind me asking you a question, and the treasurer can jump in, on a daily basis, just at treasurer, what kind of money do you deal with on a daily basis?
Over $100 million.
How much?
Over $100 million on a daily basis.
Okay, and then, in the event that, let's say for the mayor, you're looking at a long period of, you're looking at could be 3 weeks. And then the other part is, it says 3/5 majority. Hell, we couldn't get 3/5 majority on you know, what restaurant we'd go to if we had to. I mean, you talk about stymieing the process. And, you know, I just think that, you know, it's good that we're trying to put something together, but this is gonna, what it's gonna do is it's gonna handcuff future councils in the event something like this happens. I don't think the city can go that long without a mayor. I believe when we had the situation with Mayor Davlin, how long were we with, you know, before the new mayor took over? It was about a week, wasn't it?
Yep.
You can't go, you know, you can't go 3 weeks. These are important jobs. And, you know, in some situations, you don't have a lot of staff in some of those positions, or, you know, in those offices. So the other aspect is I really think we need to hold this. We don't have a representative for Ward 1. I think that's important too. I think we would want them to weigh in. You know, we talk about, you know, we speak for our wards, for 12,000 people in our ward. And yet we've got one ward that won't be able to weigh in on this. So I'd really like to hold this, if to be truthful, instead of debate. Thank you.
Alderwoman Notriano, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a couple of things to say, and I guess I'll start with my responses to 3 weeks being a long time. Since when? It's been 3 weeks since we've had someone sitting in the Ward 1 seat. And how long would you think, I'm asking the council, how long do you think it takes to get oriented as a newly elected mayor, clerk, or treasurer off the street with no experience? How long do you think it takes to be oriented into that office? I mean, I know for me personally, it would take a while, right? It would take probably 3 weeks for me to get my arms around what's going on. There should be a professional, not appointed, management level staffer in each of these offices, the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, and the mayor's office, who can make sure that the city doesn't fall apart if we take our time and do our due diligence to appoint someone with public input into these positions. Yeah, so unfortunately, you know, former clerk Lesko did not apparently have someone who could step in and run the office. I think that was a problem. That was a shortcoming of his time there. It is certainly not fair to have the office hinge, any office here or in the private sector, anywhere, to hinge on the leadership of a single person. Any of us could walk out the door and get hit by a car. Are you joking? Like, I better stop. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Alderwoman. If I can, you know, I appreciate this ordinance being brought forward. I think we had a very, needless to say, spirited discussion in recent weeks about the appointment process. And, I mean, I understand what the sponsors are trying to do here and putting together a process so that it's clear to everybody that, you know, once a vacancy occurs, where we head and so forth. I just have a couple of things that I'd like to mention as far as maybe we tweak it, maybe make it a little more palatable. One is that 2/3 majority thing. I don't expect an answer tonight, but just think about that. I'm a strong proponent of majority, not super majorities. So I mean that's really one of the main issues I had. I think the spirit of the ordinance is we have a vacancy. we have an opportunity as a council to, because it is unique, where most of the vacancies that I think occur in local governments, it's usually the CEO, in our case, it's the mayor who would put the name forward. When it's an executive office, I know I'm repeating things, but when it's executive office, it's unique where it's a member or members of the council that put the name forward. So I think better outlining, how that process is to avoid the controversies that we had in the past, I think is admirable. But I think if we just a little tweaking, I don't want to sit here and fight about it. I think we can get there. I think we're all smart people. We may not all agree, but I think we can get to a point where we have something that's palatable. I did see one typo, but I won't even go over that tonight. But anyway, Alderman Gregory.
Yes, just real quick. I think the points about offices going vacant for too long or any time frame is a good point. And, I just feel like if any event that, if we need to amend it to ensure that occurs, I don't know if the deputies, I think each one of these offices have a deputy treasurer, a deputy clerk, and a deputy mayor. When that situation did happen with Mr. Davlin, who ran the show? Wow.
Alderman Coons was mayor pro tem at the time.
Right. So he ran it that week until we
He
voted?
did indeed, with assistance from a lot of people.
Right. Okay. Those are just my thoughts on it. I do understand, somebody needing to step up and take charge while we work through the vacancy. That was just my thoughts on it, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, next on the list is Alderman Carlson.
Thanks, Chair. Before I give my thoughts or on the merits or anything, to one of the sponsors, is your plan to hold this or move this to final vote next week? I think there are three.
I haven't, this is new to me, the idea to hold it, so,
Well, we've held ordinances here the last year and a half.
no, I mean, like, the idea of holding this.
Well, that's really my major concern. I mean, let's look at the facts. I mean, we have 1/10 of the city not being represented right now. 12,000 voters. Now, we can say what we want about all these other ordinances. I mean, I'm not going to say they're run of the mill, but, we're paying bills, we're getting bids. But if this is as important as I'm hearing from some of my colleagues, we certainly can wait a couple more weeks where we have full representation. I think there's, I hope what's not going on here is the fact that, I know some people were upset about the process the last few weeks, but we've known the process. The process was in place to put City Clerk Redpath in. But here, if we're purposely trying to ramrod through without full representation of the citizens of Springfield, again, we're talking 12,000 people not having a voice right now. We certainly, and I don't know the timeline for the new Ward 1 alderwoman or alderperson. Maybe the mayor can ask that, but I assume we're only a few weeks away. But again, we can hold off on this, and I would ask my colleagues to hold off on this just another couple weeks until we have full participation from 10 alder people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Alderman Williams.
Yeah, we're living in interesting times when it gets that important because one seat's empty, because it shouldn't stop nothing. We, like you said, there's plenty of ordinances that we are passing. So we have a chief of staff. We have a pro tem. So the chief of staff got the admin side, the pro tem got us, or the political side, whatever we want to call it, and ordinances side. So things move on. Just like it would in the Army, just like it would sometimes people drop dead. We keep moving on. We don't have to act like it's the end of the world. Plus, Misty ain't nothing gonna happen to her anyway, and she ain't gonna be going nowhere anyway. So I think we shouldn't hold it. I think you should stick to your guns. We should move this along like they would if it was flipped around. Yes. They would definitely sit there arrogantly and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Alderman Gregory.
No, my only comment is we have a week to hear suggestions from our colleagues, and if next week we, hear something that we need to hold it, or we still haven't figured out, then we can take that action at this time. Right now, it's on debate, it's not doing nothing now, and we got time to hear from those who have different ideas, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gregory. Alderman Carlson again.
I just want to make sure I misunderstood. You want to hold it or you don't?
No,
Sean?
I don't think we should hold it tonight. I think we should gather our thoughts from our other colleagues that they have, and if next week we don't have a product that 6 votes is comfortable with, then we hold it and we keep working on it.
Would we need 5 votes next week?
Would need 5.
Or 5.
Well, that would match the clerk vote, so we're fine.
Well, I mean,
We're fine.
all right.
Alderman Carlson.
Well, I think back to last Monday then, if that's how we're going to be, Alderman. I think back to last Monday.
Yes, that's
I think
how
there
you
were
guys
five-
are.
There were
That's
five.
how you
There were
guys
5
are.
of us at the.
You didn't want to wait a week.
No, I know. There were 5 aldermen at the Martin Luther King breakfast. 3 of those aldermen are sponsors of this bill. And what we heard from a Supreme Court justice who quoted Martin Luther King, an eye for an eye and we all go blind. And that's exactly what's happening right here with what you just referenced.
We'll be blinded.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Corporation Counsel?
Yeah, so
they don't wanna
just to
take
clarify on the vote, our rules, so it takes a vote of 6 members of the committee to take committee action under our rules. When there's 9 alderpersons, it takes a vote of 5 alderpersons to pass something at a council meeting. So those are the voting rules
Thank you,
for
Mr.
this ordinance.
Can I remind my colleagues, when you're done speaking, please uncheck your box because there's quite a list there. Alderwoman Natriano, I believe.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Corporation Counsel. It brings up another question that we should probably talk about, is the fact that very recently it's come to my attention that a present vote in the city of Springfield does not mean what we in the city of Springfield has thought it has meant for at least as long as I've been following politics here in the city. So if you could expand on present votes a little bit for us.
Sure, so under a 1982 Illinois Supreme Court decision, a present vote can have 2 different impacts. Under a, if the vote requires a concurrence of the board or the city council, the present vote goes with the majority. If it requires an affirmative vote, then a present vote is counted as a no vote.
And so we have the,
In our city code says, unless otherwise specified by the Illinois Municipal Code, all ordinances or resolutions are passed with a concurring vote.
okay. And so, yeah, so that means that if you vote present in the city, your vote counts for the prevailing side, right?
On a majority of votes, unless otherwise specified by the municipal code.
Okay, just want to clear that up. And to, and so I will go along with my co-sponsors and say I do not support holding this. And I would just like to say that whatever you think our motivations are, the motivations behind this ordinance, if you read through it, is to have public input in the process of selecting a appointed mayor or an appointed treasurer or appointed clerk. So we just appointed a clerk and had almost, I would say, I really don't know how you say we have any public input on that. I guess if you're saying that 5 affirmative votes counts for public input, then we had half the city's public input or input on who's going to be clerk. But I think we should have an open process here in Springfield for selecting these citywide offices. And I think that the citizens of Springfield deserve to have a say who their appointed mayor or treasurer or clerk should be. So that's what we're doing with this ordinance, just to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I think the ordinance is pretty clear that there would be prior to a vote, if it was adopted in its present form, an opportunity for the public to have comments, which I think is in the spirit of what you just described. I personally don't have a problem with that. Just, again, I just have some minor tweakings with the one, I guess is kind of major, that majority, the two-thirds. If you just please give that some consideration. And I do have a question about, I want to make sure we're in the spirit the spirit of all rules, more of a question of you, Mr. Mordock. But anyway, again, I appreciate it being brought forward. The motion on the table is for the debate agenda unless somebody else has any questions or comments. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, where was the second?
Who is the second for the debate agenda?
I'll be it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-028, an ordinance authorizing a subreciprocal agreement with Springfield School District 186 for the payment in the amount of $501,010 pursuant to the JIA grant number 102501 for the Springfield Police Department.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-029, an ordinance authorizing subreciprocal agreement with the Sojourn Shelter and Services, Inc., and payment in the amount of $708,104 pursuant to the ICJIA grant number 102501 for the Springfield Police Department.
Move consent.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I see Josh back here. Josh, I would just ask, as we go into this grant, can you continue to have us updated with what's going on? Thank you.
The record reflect, he said yes. Anything further, Alderwoman? Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
2025-030, an ordinance authorizing subreciprocal agreement with Solid Rock Youth Transitions Services, Inc., and a payment in the amount of $707,500 pursuant to the ICJIA grant number 102501 for the Office of Springfield Police Department.
Consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-031, an ordinance authorizing a subreciprocal agreement with Envision Unlimited and payments in the amount of $235,000 pursuant to the ICJIA grant number 102501 for the Springfield Police Department.
Motion consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-032 is an ordinance authorizing subreciprocal agreement with Washington Street Mission and payment in the amount of $292,937 pursuant to the ICJIA grant number 102501 for the Springfield Police Department.
Move for consent. Second.
Motion by Alderman Rockford, seconded by Alderman Williams for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-033 is an ordinance authorizing subreciprocal agreement with Mental Health Centers and Central Illinois and a payment of amount of $501,010 pursuant to the ICJIA grant 102501 for the Springfield Police Department.
Move for consent.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-034, an ordinance authorizing execution of employee leasing agreement with Management Impact Solutions, LLC, to retain Dallas Whitford to provide financial assistance services for the Office of Budget Management and Planning and the Economic Development for the amount not to exceed $60,000 from March 1, 2025 through February 28, 2026.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for consent agenda for Big D. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-035, an ordinance authorizing a one-year extension under RFP CS 22-28 in the amount of $60,855 for a total amount not to exceed $236,280 with Lauterbach and Alman LLP to perform city's annual audits through fiscal year 2025 for the Office of Budget and Management.
Move for consent.
Second.
Motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
2025-036, an ordinance authorizing execution of a redevelopment agreement with Lax Inc. for the financial assistance for the property located at 322 East Adams Street, utilizing Central Area Tax Increment Financing Funds in the amount of $1,455,000 for the Office of Planning and Economic Development.
Motion for consent.
Debate.
Motion for debate. Is there a second? Is there a second for the debate agenda?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Hanauer.
Yeah, thank you. Is this what's the total percent we're using on TIF for this project?
48.5%.
Our standard's usually around 33%. I think we've, occasionally we've gone a little higher, but I just was kind of, I really hate to see us go up any farther on that.
Director, welcome back.
Thank you. Now, I have to admit, I was not privy to all of this discussion, but I will tell you, the ordinance, as Corporation Counsel just said, does not demand that we stick with that. That has been something we've done in the past. Based on what this group has provided us, this was a determination for funding, and I think they are here this evening if we do have questions of them directly about this.
I guess my point on this is, I guess, as a council, we need to make a decision how high we're going to go on this. Because what I don't like, and I don't like where we pick and choose who gets 48%, who gets 33%, whatever. We had a standard set, precedent set where we were 33%. We have modified that. I didn't like it then. So as a council, I think that, if we're going to go to 48%, I mean, we get too much higher, we might as well own the dang building. We're paying most of the money and we're not getting anything for it. So, I think that that's something we need to kind of make a decision here. And that way, if someone wants to come in and they want, let's say we set the cap at 45, there's no discussion on it. That we don't pick and choose. We'll give it to the same person here as this person here. But I don't like the picking and choosing where somebody's going to get 48, somebody's only going to get 33. That's when we get into problems up here. And I like to be pretty consistent on stuff like that. And I would just say that's something to think about. I'm not against the project. I just worry about this moving forward. So, thank you.
Anything further, Alderman? Director, you have any response to that?
I think what Alderman Hanauer just pointed out, I mean, we don't have a solid number that we've used in the past, so we have,
We had 33%.
Well,
but not as an ordinance,
Well, that's correct. It is not in the ordinance, but it's been mostly the
right?
practice. That seems correct.
It's just been
in
something used as a precedent, so.
I do have a question, but I'm going to let the other two that signed up speak first. Alderwoman Natriano.
Thank you, Chair. So before I go on with my comments, I would just say, regarding 33% or 30% or whatever percent we decide or don't decide on, my 2 cents on that is picking a percentage out of the air is arbitrary. And what we should be doing is looking at the project and, since this is TIF dollars, looking at the value added. And if the project demands 48% to get done and it's going to add some good value to downtown, which sorely needs it. I talked to the owners a few weeks ago and heard that they were thinking of putting a little grocery down there. That is something that we really could use downtown to make it a more appealing place to live and get feet down here and really change the game. But yeah, so I am in favor of this. I fully support it. I actually would like to be added as a sponsor on this. So I read an SJR article about the building at 322 East Adams. So that's the old Standard Bank building. And SJR says it's been vacant for 25 years, and that was in 2022. A nice big building in a neighborhood that is in the process of revitalizing, and certainly deserves a nice hard look from the 9 of us up here. And I also found in my research that City Council in 2020 approved TIF money in the amount of $1 million. So just, they're only asking for $455,000 more. But Council in 2020 approved a project to renovate this building to the tune of $1 million. So I think we should keep that in mind when we're debating this and voting. Unfortunately, that project, that building went nowhere. And luckily, we have the owners of Lexa who bought the building in 2023 and have been working really hard with Alderwoman Purchase to get something going in that building and get things, just put the building to use and really stand up for downtown and having useful businesses. So the plan is to have offices on the second floor, and like I said, retail space on the first floor. Hopefully that market happens. And I also would like to give kudos to Alderwoman Purchase for working really hard on this deal. I first heard about it through you. It's unfortunate that recent statutes have come to light that make it to where you cannot participate in the debate or in voting on this ordinance. That is, again, another new rule that is recently been brought up to us here at the city of Springfield, a way of doing business that we had not done before. Because certainly we can think of some city council members who had indirect or direct interests in TIF districts who had voted on TIF agreements in those districts previously. But nonetheless, I really want to get this past the finish line, and I hope that you all will support this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gregory.
Yes, thank you. Before I speak, I would just like the developers of this project to come speak to it and talk about the project.
I think you can, excuse your time, but I want to say my piece first.
Well, it's my
Before
turn.
you ring, but you can't
You don't
go
want to
ahead
hear
and go
from
to
the developers?
I do want to hear from them, but I don't think you have a right to say, well, we're just going to stop right here and go straight out.
These are my questions. You can
Are
come
you
back
going
and
to ask him questions?
Well, yeah, I want to hear about the project.
Okay, fine. Fine.
You want to ask him?
Come on up, go on.
Chair.
I'm okay if you are, and you all are,
I would like
with
to go
the developer coming up.
I thought when you ran these things, we went first and then we went out there.
It's whatever the spirit of the body is. I'm open.
No, I yield my time to let Alderman Williams ask his question.
Alderman
I
Williams.
didn't know he was
go ahead.
calling on them already. That's the purpose of
Go ahead,
putting on the
Alderman.
light. So my question is not to you, sir. My question is for the council. So this reminds me like zoning. Sometimes we have to understand who knows the ward the best. I defer to you guys when it's your ward because you know what's going on. You know the neighbors. The more inside game of what's happening in those areas. So I deferred to Alderwoman Purchase, but I did challenge because I can remember being upset, very upset with Director Yeazel when she let two young ladies, she just did it and said because I'm the director and I just felt like they should have that. That upset me, Over time, I learned to understand it because I had to go understand the business. And, frequent it, get to know the young ladies who was trying and just understand the overall text. So I think on these projects, to put a hard, fast rule really does injustice to the citizens because each situation merits its own understanding. And in this case, when I'm reading and seeing the type of money they put into this, that alone sold me and let me know, okay, this may be acceptable. Because it's not a small amount of money that they've already invested, and they've already approved that it ain't gonna be like what happened with that, the past, I'll just say, the other projects in the past that cost $1 million, So I appreciate him from coming, and I'll yield back to the chair. And my seat mate, it just had to be pouting for a
Yeah,
minute.
thank you, Alderman.
I'm all right.
Mr. Haxel, do you mind introducing yourself real quick, and then I have a quick question for you.
Certainly. My name is Martin Haxel, and my wife Lori and I are the owners of the corporation seeking the TIF request, which is the subject of this ordinance.
Mr. Haxel, when you talked to me, I don't know, a month ago or so now when it was, you said that you had informed me, one of the first questions I asked you, what's the percentage you're asking for? And I think it was 48.5%. But I recall that we weren't counting in the total cost of the project the cost that you've already incurred. So
That is correct.
which to me is a part of the total project cost.
The
So explain to me,
We're working with an architect who has estimated the cost of rehabbing this building to be $3 million.
okay,
So the TIF request, as Alderman Hanauer has pointed out, is 48.5% of that $3 million. Now, when you factor into the equation approximately $600,000 we've already put into the building, this TIF request is more like 41% of the project. And another piece of information we have obtained from our architect is he quoted a construction trade association which pointed out that the cost of construction in this country has increased by 40% since the pandemic.
right.
When you look at it that way, this TIF request is asking for the increase in the cost of construction in the last 5 years. I can personally tell you that when my wife and I rehabbed 312 East Adams, the building we purchased from the Heritage Foundation, which was totally gutted, we rehabbed all 3 floors. All of that construction was post-pandemic. It cost hundreds of thousands of dollars more than we anticipated as a result of the increased costs. Right now, the building is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars less than what we've got into it. The building at 322 East Adams, at the bank building at the corner, you're talking about a much bigger project with a much bigger price tag. And if the TIF request doesn't go through, there's no chance of us being able to do anything. We don't have the money. The banks won't loan it to us.
Well, Mr. Haxel, I want to personally thank you for you and your family and those who are involved in this project for the interest in seeing downtown thrive. I think all of us probably in the entire room are on that side of things. I did want to remind everybody that we did pass an ordinance a few years ago that a project of this magnitude would not receive funds until the project is completed and the occupancy permit has been granted. We did implement that because we were burned on a project in which I think it was a prior council, had a TIF agreement and money was being expended, considerable amount of money upwards towards $1 million plus dollars was expended to a developer. And then now we still have a building that is non-occupied. So we have that protection. That's important. That was important to me at the time. And so, I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that for the record. I'm sure that's going to be a part, if we do pass and there isn't a redevelopment agreement, be a part of it. Alderman Grigg, I didn't mean to keep you so long. Go ahead.
No problem, no problem. Sometimes I might need to slow down and get my thoughts together. Thank you, Haxels. So with all of this work, I've read through your, your presentation here that you provided us, and my only questions was, do we know what the amount that once this building is totally finished and renovated, what does it take the tax revenue on the building from to another? There's usually assessment with these
I
projects.
believe that the assessor's office has already told the Economic Development Committee or office that they believe that if this project is completed, I hope Amy corrects me if I'm wrong about this, the anticipated fair market value of the building would be, I think, 1.3, 1.4 million, and the tax revenue, property tax revenue would be approximately 30 or 30-something thousand dollars per year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's just a normal question that I ask on these type of projects, just to see how it's going up. I'm a co-sponsor on this and have been, so I definitely support this. I'm an alderman that always fusses about some differences in TIF amounts and things of that nature, but I do believe that a lot of our projects have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. The state statute doesn't have any match at all. That's something that we do. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it hurts projects, depending on where it's at. Downtown is definitely in need of some help and some development. There's no fact in that. So I guess my final questions is, and thank you, sir, for that. I do plan on continuing on and voting for this. So my final question would be for Corporation Counsel Murdoch. My colleague has mentioned why Alderwoman Purchase cannot vote on this, and I think that it would be incumbent of us, or if that's the right word, important for us to make sure that we're clear on why she cannot.
Sure. So under the TIF Act, if a voting member of this body owns property within the TIF district, they should recuse themselves from that vote and from discussion on that vote. And so that's under Section 74.4-N. So I've asked Alderwoman Purchase to not comment on this. I do know that that there's been some discussion on the council about how that's been treated in the past, and that this might be a change for the council, but that's what I have advised and discussed that section moving forward.
And I only asked that Corporation Counsel. I understand that previous administration. I'm not going back there. I'm talking about within this one. And just recently, we just made a TIF program, and where we added RNs and LPMs to our thing, and that was something that we worked with you on. Does that not?
That ordinance that was the Enos Park TIF,
Okay.
and so that was a different TIF.
Okay.
And I was not aware at that time of the ownership interests. That's why the clerk and I are working together to put together a form for the council so TIF ownership interests can be disclosed. The TIF Act requires disclosure in writing to the city clerk of any ownership of any interest in a TIF. The city has no records of that being done before, so we're going to be implementing that this year to coincide with the May 1st Statement of Economic Interest deadline. So the city has record of all the ownership interests within the TIFs, so that type of oversight doesn't happen again.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I'll say that's important for a community like mine, because I think of, young people, men and women who may live in a poor area that makes it to be an alderman like me, right? And I can't, be a business owner and improve my life and be an alderman in these developmental areas. And that's the only thing I think about for this particular rule. And I know it's a state law and things, and it may be some discussions that need to be had. I understand why it's there for sure, but it definitely troubles me. I must be honest in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Williams.
Yes, Corporate Counsel. So, I own two homes in my TIF, Far East, So are we talking if you own a business versus a home? I mean, because, I mean, this will get complicated then, because I would kind of think that would be unfair, because I lived there before it was even a TIF.
Well, you're allowed to keep that interest under the TIF Act, but it's clear that, that there should not be discussion and that there should be recusal of the vote. Now, this is something that I'm happy to bring to our lobbyists.
I mean, it may be why the previous administration and other ones didn't do this. I mean, I don't know, but I think we definitely need to know what we're doing when we're talking about excluding aldermen from debating and voting on things because they own something or where they live. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Hanauer.
Yeah, thank you. I know I believe Alderman Fulgenzi, the restaurant was not in that TIF. It was, they cut it out of the TIF. And then I believe, unless I didn't realize it, but Alderman McMiniman had, he rented at the old coal building, and so he didn't own property down there as far as I know. So that's why they could vote on TIFs and you know, talk about it and that. So that's my recollection at least. Thank you.
Alderwoman Natriano.
Yes, I would just like to, thank you, Chair.
Sure.
I would just like to ask Mr. Haxel, while you're up here, if you'd like to give us a brief overview of what you hope to do with this project?
Oh, yeah, back to the project. Well, thank you, Alderman.
The building needs all new mechanicals. It's been vacant for 30-plus years. All new HVAC, plumbing, electrical, needs a sprinkler, needs to have an elevator made functional or replaced. As we stand here right now, we're not 100% sure exactly what the building's going to be used for. We've been approached by some people who might be interested. Mayor Busher has advised us. She knows some people who may be interested. We may occupy one floor or part of a floor ourselves. Once upon a time, we had an entire business development plan with several other people involved, and unfortunately, it all fell through, and that happened about approximately 2 years ago. So we're trying to move forward. We're trying to do something for the building. We're trying to do something for the block that's been very much impacted by the fire that occurred last summer. And we're still on the lookout for not only ourselves, but other potential tenants who may want to locate there.
Thank you, Mr. Haxel. Anything else, Alderwoman?
Yeah, bringing up the fire, I would like to ask, and this is probably a question for Director Raising, if there were any other applications to this TIF?
Director?
Okay. Okay, so,
The record, she said none at this time.
okay, great. Thank you.
Anything
Are there
further?
any other questions?
Any further questions of Mr. Haxel?
Well,
Nice try.
I will say before I step down to address your concerns, Alderman Donlin, we have had those discussions with the Economic Development Office, and it is our intention to incorporate into that agreement those provisions that you worried about to make sure the money actually gets spent doing the rehab project before the TIF money is actually released. So that's one thing we are aware of. I want to thank Alderman Gregory. I want to thank Mayor Busher, Alderwoman Notariano for sponsoring it and for your support. And before I sit down, I have to give a shout out to Alderwoman Lakeisha Purchase, who has literally been the wind underneath our wings for the last couple of years on this deal, supporting us, encouraging us, trying to help us find tenants, retail tenants for the building downtown, who's led us through the process and told us how to apply for the TIF money and lined up everything with the Economic Development Office, and without her assistance, we wouldn't be here today, and I want to give her a big thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you,
opportunity.
Mr. Haxel.
you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? The motion on the floor is for the debate agenda for next week. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next on the agenda is unfinished business. Any alderperson have any unfinished business to come before the committee this evening?
Yes, sir.
Seeing, hearing none. Any new, Alderman Williams.
I requested some numbers from HR, and are they here tonight? Mayor, I'm elevating it to your level now. We're talking about employees that live in Springfield and employees who don't live in Springfield. And I don't know why it's taking so long to get that. I'm looking at residents, I've talked to her a couple of times. This is not rocket science.
Mayor?
Alderman, it was my understanding that you initially asked for all, and then you changed your request to just hires after the residency ordinance, so they have
It's on tape, it's on the city council that I asked about it, it was during the budget, her budget presentation. I said, since we've passed, that happened when you became mayor, that change happened. And I'm looking for that, them numbers. This corporate stuff or in the corporation, all that, this is not hard. Please give me my numbers, is all I'm asking. Because we're going into these weeks.
Would you let me finish my statement?
Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, if you understood what I said, yes.
Mayor?
So the initial report was ran the way you originally asked. Then the request was changed, so they are changing the report. The city has a very old software ERP system. As you know, you've passed an ordinance that we are doing an upgrade to it. It's not as easy to navigate as you would hope or assume, so they are getting that together.
So we've hired that many people that it's that complicated to know where they live. Because you're naming a system, and I don't even know if it would really take a system. I'm asking, since you've been mayor and you changed it, that anybody can work for the city, I want to know how many work for the city that live outside of Springfield. And I don't think it should take 3 weeks, grade before. I think I should get my information.
So as the director reported to you during her budget presentation, it takes a manual look, because just because you have a Springfield address does not mean you live in Capitol Township or you don't live in Capitol Township. The system does not look at that.
When you hire, are you breaking it down by townships? Because I don't care what township, I care if it's a Springfield address, if they're a Springfield employee.
With all due respect, Alderman, you can have a Springfield address and live in Leland Grove, Jerome, Southern View. That is not considered Capitol Township. That's what she's breaking down.
When can I expect my report, Mayor?
I will follow up with you in an email, Alderman.
Anything further, Alderman? Alderman, anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any further unfinished business? Hearing none. Any new business? Any new business? Any new business? Hearing none. Next on the agenda are the citizens' requests to address the committee this evening. And first on the list from the clerk's office is Veronica Glass. Veronica, are you here this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Glass. Myself and my husband live on North 4th Street in Springfield. There is so many things I would love to address from the murder, not killing, of Sonia Massey. She is my husband's cousin, to the officers driving drunk and almost killing innocent citizens and other officers aiding them by offering him water and etc. to sober him up faster. But today, I want to address these massage parlors that our city allows sex trafficking, and I want to speak out for the victims. As a rape victim myself, I know how hard it is to come forward, and this whole thing has bothered me so bad. And for you all up there to be able to stop it, and you're not, shame on you. And for the older woman to say, have a victim come forward, are you serious? Apparently you've never been raped or a victim of sexual assault. There are many reasons why they don't come forward and won't. Fear for their lives, fear for their families. They fear law enforcement. Who doesn't? They have language barriers, and that is just many reasons why. Do we have sex crimes unit here in Springfield? Yes, we do. Sangamon County Sheriff's Office has a unit that investigates sexual offenses. Isn't sex trafficking a sex offense? Yes. Why aren't they investigating these massage parlors? You as a city council need to get sex crime unit and the FBI and victim service unit all involved, as they are right here in Springfield, to close them massage parlors and help the victims. Quit the excuses. It takes all of you up there, starting with the mayor. Now do your job. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the agenda is Mr. Ken Pasha.
I'm going to touch on a couple topics tonight. I'm going to flash back to 2025-36. I'm just going to share with you guys some guidance that's been provided. Home rule municipalities might consider adopting an ordinance to supersede the TIF Act instead of silencing an alderwoman who's put in a lot of really hard work to revitalize a corner that's been empty the entirety of my actual adult life, guys, since I turned 18 years old. I think it's pretty amazing what she's done to get that done, and I think it's even better what they're doing to get it developed. And I think it would be wild if you guys don't give them that. I think it's frustrating, though, that we would find a rule suddenly to do that instead of suggesting to the aldermen that maybe you guys pass an ordinance to prevent that. Because it seems wild that you wouldn't be able to do that. Where do you guys live? In your wards, right? Where do you own property at? In your ward. I mean, this is simple, right? Like, I don't see any reason to stop that from happening because you are the person who's most knowing, right? You're the person who works with these people, who finds out what they're doing day to day. You guys are busy with your own wards. If anyone's word could be trusted on who would be doing the hard work in her ward, I feel like it's Alderman Purchase. And I feel it's a little frustrating that you guys wouldn't find a way to move around silencing them when we've gone out of our way to silence one of our own. A 30-day ban for cursing on TV. Guys, the FCC doesn't even issue bans that long, and it seems more arbitrary that you guys don't even have a code of those sort of punishments. Did you pick 30 days out of a hat? Was it a guess? Did you go around and ask somebody what you thought would be a really nice long punishment for using a curse word? It seems almost childish and petty to go against a citizen like that when you could have pulled her aside after the meeting and been like, hey, next time, maybe we can talk about punishment. But you guys threw a 30-day ban, and I will tell you the PAC councilors received multiple complaints about it already, so I'm sure you guys will hear about it since you're cooling free speech by doing that. Threatening to turn off the cameras on one particular citizen seems targeted, and I'm sure the courts, if they decide to weigh in, will agree with me. I'm also going to speak on 2025-27 because I think it's wild, and it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, quite honestly, rules for thee, but not for me. It's weird when people decide rules apply for other people but not for themselves. We're worried about a vacancy in the mayor's office or the treasurer, things like that, but how long has Ward 1 been sitting here unrepresented? Anybody? It's about 3 weeks, going on 4. And I know the mayor's doing the hard work of finding someone to replace them. I agree with her interview process. I've heard the questions you ask. I think it's outstanding. But it's frustrating to me that we're suddenly worried about timelines when we weren't worried about timelines before. I mean, we knew we were going to install Redpath as a city clerk, even though we all acted like nobody knew it was going to happen. And I think that's what's frustrating the most, is that process could have been made transparent, made easily clear, and done very simply. But instead of doing that, we're now deciding that we need to take our time. We need to make sure everything's done right. Well, we could have done that before. We could have avoided front page stories, national news remarks. I mean, you guys do realize I turn down national interviews sometimes because they do ask about you guys quite a bit. And it's frustrating because you guys know what we're saying. You know what you're doing, and you know what you're not doing. And I think that's really frustrating because you guys have that kind of power, and you know you do. It's very frustrating that people come up here week after week, and you guys act like we do this for fun or some political game that I'm up to or somebody's funding me. I wish somebody paid me for this. But quite frankly, it's a motivated interest in our community. And I would hope that you guys would have those same interests, such as not silencing our aldermen, not silencing our citizens, and not ignoring the fact that very clearly in the ordinance that you guys passed, you could already be shuttering these places. Not all of them are currently under investigation, although there are investigations happening at the state and federal level within this city. You guys could even confirm that for people, but you won't even give people a bone to chew on when it comes to things like that. And it's frustrating because it all makes you look bad, all of you. Every single one of you look bad the longer this drags on, whether or not you've done your part for it or not. And I think that's the frustrating part, because no matter the work you do, women are still being raped on a daily basis in this town, in those parlors. And I think it's frustrating of all because people ask me to come up here with a solution for you. Guys, I got a full-time job. I run a not-for-profit. I have a lot of other stuff going on, and I wish that I had all of the answers to provide for you. But there's 10 of you, technically not, but we'll get there. I think it's frustrating, though, with that many, I'm asked to provide solutions as though I have the time or you guys are paying me consultant fees. Because quite frankly, if you want the expertise of a graduate degree level communications master, you should probably pay me for that before I come up here and start outlining step-by-step solutions for you guys, as though you've earned that from me or anybody else. I mean, quite frankly, you guys have the resources to plug this kind of stuff up on your own instead of asking citizens to look it up for you. Did you guys know you could pass an ordinance to counteract the TIF Act? I mean, you know you're a home rule unit, right? I mean, I guess that's the frustrating part, is you guys are silencing your own alderpersons in the middle of silencing your own citizens. Off of arbitrary rules, you don't even have a system for punishment. I would know how close I am if I had a time on the board. How much I got?
Minute, 16 seconds.
All right. You said I have a minute, 16 seconds, or I'm over by a minute, 16
Have
seconds?
a minute and 10 seconds. I started it after you'd been speaking for a while when I didn't see the timer.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, though, because I got to know where I'm ending at.
About a minute.
All right. So I guess the thing is, though, guys, I mean, when we're looking at the problems that face this city, we can be a lot more proactive than taking our sweet time. I mean, we have a corporation counsel. We have lawyers, right? If you guys make a bad decision, you can defend it in court. And I'm not telling you to just start freewheeling it. But quite frankly, you guys should be more willing to be a little bit more firm about your decisions and be willing to risk the idea that you could be wrong, rather than trying to do the idea that trying to take your sweet time, because perfection is the enemy of good, right? And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but our national leaders don't have that kind of qualm about taking their time. They're going to take your grant money. They're going to take your funding. They're going to do all of that while you guys bide your time and wait for something to happen. I'll tell you what's happening, guys. The destruction of our federal government. And all you have left at the city level is to take care of your city, your wards, and your citizens. Because we got another 3 years, 11 months, and I think 360 some odd days of this. And I don't even know if most of us will make it to the end of that. So I'd caution you as a city to seriously consider what you could be doing to take care of your citizens and ensure that we're all safe, protected, and here in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pesha. Next on the agenda this evening is Kaylee Freeman. Kaylee?
Mr. Chairman, our clock isn't working, so you're going to keep the time. Oh, there we go.
Mr. Clerk, I think Joanna got it going.
All right. So Mr. King was quoted tonight, and I just wanted to finish that quote. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. This is not a kingdom. You are not kings. Your power does not follow a family line, but in Springfield, in these United States, these words do not ring true. The Langfelders, the Redpaths, the Bushes, and the Clintons all have something in common. They keep power in the family. What occurred here a few weeks ago was disgusting and illegal. We, the citizens, you know, those you call paid-off socialists and crazy, are begging you to start acting like a democracy and not an oligarchy. I am here today not because of money, but because I am a citizen. I grew up on military bases and was taught a good citizen is engaged. I am not. Money changes hands in private, and we are expected to just accept the outcomes. We came here a few weeks ago expecting debate and instead watched a crowning. A family already in that side room taking offense to hearing their history of the crimes against the people in this town and how their golden son covered those crimes up. We live in a city combating human trafficking. We live in a city that is home to 2 trauma centers. We live in a city with historic corruption. Let's not forget Mayor Devlin passed away from self-inflicted wounds, which closed several federal investigations. And for those of you that sit up here and brag about how long you've sat on this committee, were your investigations closed? We, the taxpayers, are asking for you to have at least 3 weeks to fill a vacancy, to review at least 3 applications, for you to present several candidates and their qualifications to the voting and tax-paying public. The way you people can communicate, that way people can communicate with their alderperson about who would be appropriate. Let's also not brag about the Fulgenzies moving a TIF line to benefit their business and their ability to vote and move money in this county. That is corruption. The end of the day, period. And I think that it's very telling that it's completely fine when the Fulgenzies do it, but when a woman like Lakeisha Purchase has put in years on a project, you guys want to block her voice? That's absolutely disgusting. This is shady and sus. Ward 10 and Ward 1, we turn around to give them money. I'm not new here. I was sitting at home watching you all during the pandemic. My old alderperson DeCenso can tell you that because I had communicated with her frequently as well. I watched the corruption. I got off my couch and came in here because I was tired of it. It's shady and it's sus to put one candidate to place a crown on his head so quickly when there is outrage in your own community, and that is why I'm not getting sued, but you are.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Mr. Robert Williams.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I am here today to discuss my situation with housing. Now, I've been coming to y'all since July last year, and I done did everything Shannon asked me to do, Newman asked me to do, Ron, everybody I done accomplished myself. I wasn't doing it because of them. I was doing it because of me, myself, and I. And Ron, who worked at the Helping Hand over here on Clear Lake, when he first met me, he met me through this lady, I don't know her name, but she work for Memorial Behavior. He claimed that he didn't know what I was there for, as far as my charge, which was a lie because I come from the prison. And as you know, my records are forward before I even get there. Now, he laid there, they did all the paperwork. This is in 2023. I should have been housed. I still haven't been housed. See what I'm saying? These people are telling y'all what y'all want to hear, and y'all accepting it. Still laying there coming to me. Like I said, it's 2 sides to the story. The beginning and the truth. I'm the truth. And I have no reason to lie. And here go the bill. I'm steady paying rent. Now, when I first came to y'all, I said, all I ask is that y'all pay the first month of deposit. Shannon took me to this one place, and it had mold in the bathtub, which she didn't see, but I saw it, and I noticed because my incarceration. And another thing, she took me to this place over here on about Amico on Carpenter Street, a couple blocks down. You can't even see the backyard. There's so much junk in it. And then the place upstairs wasn't even finished. They want us to move in a place, which one of the guys accepted, while they work, continue to do work. I'm not going. Anything can happen, mishap, and I can get hurt. And then on top of that, the sidewalk is not a sidewalk. It's blocks just like this, made out of stone, and I hit my toe and it hurts real bad. And Shannon and them laid there. They came to me with this apartment, which I filled out to get a place over here on the north side. And all I asked y'all from day one, once I got my situation taken care of, was to pay my first month and my deposit. I done spent over $2,000 of my own money. So how am I gonna get a place? You know what I'm saying? How can I invite my family here? I don't have a place, cause y'all taking the money that I get. And then y'all letting other people that's on SSI live in these hotels and these cribs, and they ain't paying jack. And they been there longer than me. I only been there a month. You know, and I spent 2,000 altogether, $2,057. And they only spent $870 for 1 month, $52. But they done had other people over there. They tell y'all it's only for a month, but it's not. It's for as long as it's for a year, whatever, or in these brother cases, I ain't gonna say no name, they've been like that 3 months, but they no longer there because they got themselves kicked out. But like I say, I'm using the money that I got to pay my bill, and them people that telling y'all they helping me, they ain't doing nothing. You know, this one lady, she never took me to nowhere. She said the place that she was gonna take me to where her boyfriend used to live, she said she wouldn't even rent the place out herself, so she didn't take. Then they switched her, and then she had me stay at the room, talking about we're gonna go get my medication. You know, I got asthma, diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I needed my medication. She never came. I waited in the room all day for her. And like I told you about this other guy, he got on some gay. I don't have nothing against gay people, but I don't like people laying there disrespecting me or assuming. Don't assume. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. No disrespect to you all. You know what I'm saying? I like women. That's it. That's all. And pay this bill and pay my first month and my deposit.
Mr. Williams, your time is up. Thank you for coming this evening.
If I may.
Yes, Alderman, please.
Chair. So, Robert, you know, we've worked with you. You come here a few times. We do make the calls for you. I know the last time you came up here and you was short $300. Who paid that?
I was short $300.
Or when last time you came up here and you needed
Nobody
some money?
paid that.
So Ethan didn't
Oh,
come?
no,
Ethan didn't help you?
no. I'm still paying.
Okay. So your back bill didn't get paid, caught up with the man?
No.
Okay, all right. So I've talked to the organizations that they are, and they are trying to help you. So, you know, the two houses.
Where's they at? Would you please
Hear me
tell
out,
me?
hear me out.
Please let the Alderman finish.
Hear me out, because you called me at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I'm trying to help you,
Okay.
right? And I answer the phone, don't I?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it's a two-way street, though. Look at me, Rob. I'm serious with you. It's a two-way street, bro. If the people that we have given the money to, pass-through money, is trying to help you, you gotta be cooperative. Hear me out. Let me
Listen,
talk.
I ain't saying nothing.
You gotta
Go
be
ahead.
cooperative. All right?
Right.
If the places that they took you are not up to code, mold is a hard thing to say, right? It is a hard thing to say that even the health department can't go in and test for it. Trust me, we've been through this. So if the places that they've taken you don't like, then we run out of options. There's not a lot of people that's working with us on placing people who are in need of homes. You hear me?
I hear you.
You hear me?
Loud and
So the
clear.
houses that you went to this weekend, I'm gonna take time out of my busy schedule, and I wanna go see them.
Right.
I wanna see them. Okay?
Without a doubt.
All right. So what I'll do, I'm gonna call Ethan tomorrow. He's aware of your situation, and we are trying to help you. We will try to find you a place. I don't know about the first month and the last month rent and how their programs work, but there is people trying to help you. And sometimes when we don't hear the right answers or what we want to hear right then we can be rude to people. Everybody's just humans. Come on, fam.
I agree. It's also, like I said, once you see them, you're going to agree to what I'm saying.
All right.
But like I said, these people are sugarcoating. They ain't telling you the truth. And ain't nobody took me nowhere to help me. And like you said, the people that said they paid my bill, they haven't paid nothing. I've been coming out of my pocket. And this is my money that I got from my mental health. That money they gave me, that was going to be for that. But now it's gone. because they went into this. See what I'm saying?
Okay. Thank you, Alderman. Next on the agenda who signed up is Ms. Bree Roberts. Ms. Roberts? Good evening.
Good evening. I would appreciate it if we could put on record that I'm formally requesting to use the front-facing camera angle during these meetings. There are viewers at home that rely on reading lips and observing body language and interpreting facial expressions to fully understand what is being communicated. Switching to the side view camera is a way to suppress, or as a way to suppress and punish public reaction to the speaker is not only unnecessary, but it's absurd. Last week, I spoke about the critical role that Planned Parenthood plays in our community, particularly in aspects to providing essential reproductive health services. The very next day, 4 Planned Parenthoods around Illinois got shut down. Again, I am here to ask, what are we going to do to support and protect these life-saving reproductive health organizations? How are we ensuring that people in our city, especially those without the means to travel, can continue to have access to their health care rights? Meanwhile, we're also hearing of reports that ICE has been spotted on our University of Illinois Springfield campus. I don't know the validity of this statement. I've just heard it multiple times today. And this should be a concern for every single person in this room. ICE raids create fear, disrupts education, and tears family apart. This isn't just a national issue. If they are in Springfield, now it is a local one. So again, I'm asking, what are we doing to protect our immigrant and undocumented students who contribute to our schools and economy? Will this city finally take action, or are we going to, will we limit cooperation with federal immigrant enforcement? Is Springfield going to step up, or will we continue to pretend that this isn't happening in our backyard until you can no longer ignore the issue? Now, I would like to talk about the financial federal aid freeze. Because while some want to pretend that this is just a political theater, real people are already feeling the consequences. This freeze does not affect Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, as many people believe that it does, but it does impact grants and loans that students and institutions rely on. Right now, Pell Grants and federal student loans appear to be safe, but other funding sources that support student success, like campus child care grants, are temporarily on hold. That means students who are parents may lose access to essential resources. It also affects state and local government funding that supports transportation, housing, and education programs. This is real money that people depend on. So what are we as a city doing to protect those that are relying on these grants? Or again, are we going to wait until we can no longer ignore these issues? And the freeze on federal health agency communication, if that's extended, what's the plan? The CDC and FDA are primary sources for public health information. If their ability to communicate to us is restricted further than it already is, we risk delays in critical health updates, from disease outbreaks to medication recalls. What are we doing to ensure that, again, Springfield residents have access to this critical information before it becomes an issue that we can no longer ignore? We cannot act as if these issues are separate. Restricting financial aid disproportionately affects low-income students, many who are immigrants or people of color. Shutting down reproductive health care clinics disproportionately affects marginalized communities. Blocking health information impacts everyone, but access to care affects those who cannot afford it on their own. These executive orders are not random. They are part of a coordinated effort to push this country back into a time when only a select group, wealthy, white, conservative Americans, had full access to rights and resources. Springfield has a choice. We continue to sit passively, watch as our most vulnerable residents lose access to healthcare, education, and basic security, or we can finally take meaningful action and do something to make the Springfield citizens like, for once, you guys actually care about us. I urge this council to move beyond discussion and actually take action. I don't know how many times we have to come up here and practically beg on our knees for you guys to actually start doing something to make us feel protected from our rights that are being stripped away every single day. Establish emergency relief measurements for students and family left in limbo by financial aid cuts. Show the people of Springfield that their city stands with them and not against them. The policies being enacted by the federal level are deliberate and they are dangerous, but local government has the ability and the responsibility to say no. So step up.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Next signed up is Mr. Robert Frazier. Mr. Frazier, welcome back.
Good evening. Just want to provide an update. I've been committed to transparency for the Clean Slate Advocate Soap to Hope program that has continued to service the Springfield area for clean linen and clothes, dignity and respect. As a part of our ongoing efforts to keep our community partners or community aware, we provide monthly updates of numbers. As of December 24, Soap to Hope program used $46,922 to provide washer and dryer usage, soap, dryer, and employee cost. The number of people that we've served was 4,175. Our average spend per person was $11.24. And the biggest thing that really hurts is the average monthly household income is $969.88. When I watch us go through the budget process and watch millions of dollars being negotiated, and we have a community that's basically fallen apart by poverty. We don't have any economic engine in Ward 2 and Ward 3 that I'm aware of to provide resources and jobs for these people that can't afford to even live. Ethnicity, because we capture all this information. Black, 64%. White, 25%. Most every other category of ethnicity is 1 or 2%, except for multi-mix, is 5%. I recognize there's a lot of things going on a national level and a community level, but once again, you do have myself, the executive director of Clean Slate Advocate, is committed to life and life of clean clothes, which is not a luxury. It is a right for everybody to have clean clothes. Everybody should be dignified to do that. As we look forward, as we continue to try to develop partnerships and create support, I know that it's been a difficult run for us, but somehow, some way, through divine intervention, I have to say, we've been able to continue the program and will continue the program until such time that changes. Thank you for allowing me the time, and I yield the rest of my time unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. We have a couple council members that would like to say something. Alderwoman Otrano.
Oh, actually, it's not for you.
For me? Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Frazier. I saw the chief come in, and I wanted to address a previous comment.
Okay, you can hold that. Alderwoman Purchase, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I did. So, Mr. Frazier, I know that you've been coming here for almost several months now, speaking to us every Tuesday when you have an opportunity, and you had said something that triggered me with transparency. Last week, I think Director Amy is here, and she said that she is now working with you because I want to know that Director Yezel is gone, but now Director Amy is here. Have you filled out an application?
Yeah.
Maybe some type of update can be provided to us. And I know that I can simply send an email or call her tomorrow, but because you come every week and speak in front
Yeah.
of everyone, I think this is something for everybody to hear. What is going on right now?
Yeah, so, really good question, and I thank you for asking that. And trust me, there's different divisions, different departments that have showed an interest to be able to try to do something. We have a lot of people who say that they want to do some things. Julia Cave and our new director, Julia's, they're great, but their hands are tied, right? There's rules and regulations that are part of this that from our perspective as citizens and small businesses and agencies that are trying to help the community don't understand. So some of these rules that come in, they're not written down, and we're not actually sitting at a table discussing these. They're just rules that are thrown at you, right? As to, in most cases, they block or they defer reasons that they cannot help as opposed to helping. So, and these things, it doesn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in a conversation. Sometimes a roadblock is reached, and it takes several weeks to get an answer to go to the next question, right? So it's not like a dialogue is going on and we have this thing going. It's until the next time you hear what their rebuttal is to what you're trying to do. So it's not a fluent conversation. It's not something that we could say, hey, if we do this, this, and this, then we can take care of that. It's just sort of, well, let me get back to you. And that might take some time, may take weeks,
So let me ask you this, Mr. Frazier. So is there any progress being made? You just said you're getting a lot of, let me get back to you, let me get back to you.
Yeah, and I count that as progress, however it may be. I'm not, I'm easy to please when it comes to that. At least people are working on it. I know, I feel the love, right? I feel like they care, right? So they're at least trying. I'm not getting, no, don't ask me anymore. I'm not getting that. I'm getting that we're trying to work through the process. Well, that process is very convoluted. For what reason, I don't know. I don't know whether these rules come from the federal government or whether we are creating the rules that are creating the barriers. I don't know. I'd like to work through that process, because in the fact that you're trying to help the community, you don't need to create barriers any more than they already are. You need to try to work through the problems and have some success, not just say no. Because there's other things that we see go on that, I watched the things like through the agenda. You just work through the process, right? But when it comes down to these community issues that I listen to every time, we seem to struggle with those. We need to struggle with understanding what's really happening in our communities. What poverty level, it's just incredible that we have such poverty, nobody really understands why or where it's coming from. And it's not that far. It's right in front of us. And we're providing a service that, like take for instance, for this past month, another number, I've got all kind of numbers. 30.5% of the individuals that are being taken care of on the laundry services are senior citizens, people that are on fixed incomes. It'll never change for them. It'll always be that way. What have they been doing? They have been just sitting on dirty clothes. So, but like I said, the conversations have continued on. Unfortunately, you don't know when the next call is going to take place. It might be tomorrow. It might be April. You just don't know. And I'm not one to really bother people. I'm not. Maybe I should be a little bit different when call people all the time and say, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" But at the same time, I'm trying to keep things going and work hard.
Mr. Frazier, well, let me see if I can maybe possibly help that. And I'm looking at our director. Is there a commitment from your office to work with Mr. Frazier and try to find a program that may be applicable?
There is a commitment, and we have sat down around the table with him when Director Yezel was still here.
If you could please go to the mic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
And if we, Director Amy, can kind of get an update, because with
Absolutely.
Mr. Frazier coming every week, it kind of leaves you confused, like what's going on, what's happening, and we know that you just
Let me
got
just,
him.
if I can, Alderwoman,
Sure.
what I'm getting at is, what I was really asking is, let's take a time out here. You're new to the office. Mr. Frazier, I know you've spoken to the prior director. What I heard you just say is there is a commitment to sit down.
There is a
Hold on, let me
commitment.
finish. And
Yeah,
sit
I'm
down
sorry.
and work with Mr. Frazier and see if we have programs that are applicable. I mean, the one that came to mind, I thought of, in a way, they might even have spoken with you about it months ago, is we have an Alderman, I had to look, Gregory. He's been beating on this for a long time about, the cannabis program. And I don't know if if the location's in that area, it probably is. But there's got to be something. All I ask is, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything because you're new, but let's sit down and see if we have a program. If we don't, then we need to maybe help them find something else. Because I don't think anybody at this horseshoe would argue that what you're doing is critical, important work. And if we can help make things better, that's one of the reasons why we're here in these seats. Let's work together to see if we can get that accomplished. But, we've had this conversation, Mr. Frazier, kind of offline in the audience before about, I never really understood why we didn't just get to those answers. And if we don't have a program, we don't have a program. Right. But if we do, let's see what we can put on the table, put before the council. Director?
Thank you, Alderman Donlin. We actually do have a program, and prior to Director Gazel, so this would be sometime in December, I don't have the exact date in front of me, I joined, as well as the rest of a number of our team, met with Mr. Frazier and his wife in our conference room, and we did give him a number of $30,000 that we could look forward to supporting Clean Slate. Those funds are required by federal regulations from HUD as how we can distribute those funds. And we provided some information as to what we needed in order to draw those funds, from calculations about what they were doing, what they were providing, things that could be paid for, things that couldn't. For instance, could soap be paid for? Could personnel be paid for? We went over those things and covered some of those things. Mr. Frazier did get back with some information. Just like many things, we had to go back through that and say, one of the things, and this is, I commend Mr. Frazier for everything he's doing for our community. We all do. I think we can all agree on that. But we are also he's also running a for-profit business as well. So you have to come to the conclusion that you have to separate the products used, the personnel used, the machines used, things like that. So we have tried to go and work with him a little bit on some of those things. So we have to have a clear path to apply for these funds and check those boxes off. So there are clear rules and regulations, and they're not ours, but rather our federal guidelines with HUD and those funds that are available.
I have to respond to that, because this is a barrier.
Mr. Frazier, if you could go to the mic.
This is a definite barrier, because we're talking about two different entities. We're talking about a for-profit that operates doing its thing, and this project is solely operated under the non-for-profit. They make the barriers of what we separate everything. So, it's like it takes people to run this program. They want to make the argument that if you use some of your for-profit people to help on the non-for-profit, then we can't figure it out, no matter how we calculate the time. That's silly.
Mr. Frazier,
That's
I
silly.
hear you.
So we're at an impasse on that.
If I can, I've let you
it's
go.
totally
Mr.
different.
Frazier, I've let you go over. Don't leave, please.
I'm
No, don't leave.
I
I trust that if you two get together or your staff get together and try to work through, we're not going to figure it out in this room, because it's not what we don't run the program. Things are presented to us when they're moving forward and need funded and so forth. But as long as there's a commitment to try to work and sit down and see if we can get this figured out once and for all, I applaud those efforts.
If I can just say this.
Yeah, in
the
closing,
reason
thank
why
you.
I come up here is for the transparency. If I don't say anything and I just let them have their point and I don't say anything, I'll walk off in the sunset like nothing ever happened, because nothing's going to happen. That's is the reason why I'm here, is so that everybody knows and it's transparent. And that's where I want to keep it.
Well,
So,
we appreciate that. You spent lots of time in this room. Let's hope we can form a partnership that works for everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Thank you,
I would
Director.
like to-
Yes, ma'am. And I know we have Alderman Gregory signed up as well. I'm sorry.
I understand.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
had just wanted to finish my statement, but I'm glad you jumped in to help me while I was speaking
Well,
to Mr.
you
Frazier.
can handle it. I know you can.
And Director Amy, it was no slate towards you. That's why I started off in the beginning. Corporation Counsel Mourdock, I know you had stated a common rule you wanted to start with of us not speaking back, but I've seen almost all my colleagues talk and I've been quiet. So I just thought it was only appropriate to say something today when I've sat here and watched him come every single week and everyone has questions all together about it. I sat and heard Alderman Donnellan ask about it last week. So I just wanted to make sure that we're providing you the opportunity as the new director, but also too, when you constantly hear him come up here every week and it's almost like it's just an update, I'm not hearing where we're going. And you just provided a lot of information today. You said a key number that was given to you when the derecho happened, and I had asked for a group to come in and provide 3 full days of service. And it was literally, Director Amy, $30,000 or a little bit over $30,000 to make that happen. So this was just really good to even hear you say that. And these are the type of updates when we see somebody consistently coming and asking us for something, and we really don't know what's going on. And I just think that's for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Gregory.
No, I'll be brief. Mr. Frazier, thank you for coming. I don't ever mind you coming to speak your thoughts. But I know we've talked about some different things that I think will work to qualify you for some CBDG funding to really do those things. I think, I know last week you said something about soap or something like that. And, I have a strong, feeling that our funds, not only SOAP, but workforce development and things like that is all important. And really, those are the type of things that CBDG funding it fits the national narrative. And I think that's where your program has to go with it. I'm willing to do anything I can to help. I think we have a great opportunity to help people in various ways, workforce development, on and on, within your location or at that location, because so many people, of dire needs come there. So we just got to tweak your plan a little bit and keep working. I encourage you to work with Ms. Amy. I'm here for you to work. We've had these discussions even when you come up here. I don't say anything because I think it's good that you express yourself. But I think to fit the narrative, to really get to where you want to go with it, we got to make some tweaks in that plan so you fit that national narrative and go from there.
Yeah, and that's just it. Clear understandings make this thing go a long way. I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, but I follow instructions.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if we have a set of instructions to follow, I'm going to follow that. But the problem is we don't have any instructions because this is a program, unfortunately, it has never really been done anywhere in the country at this level, right? So it's different. But there's a need, so what? We're intelligent, we can figure it out.
Mr. Frazier, if I can ask you to wrap it up, and and with a commitment that we're going to get together with Ms. Amy, and thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the questions and the comments. Okay, on a different topic, Alderwoman Natriano, please.
Yes, a different topic, but I would just like to comment on that discussion and that entire situation. I'm just going to say that last night we were at a meeting put on by ICON. They were talking to us about land bank and getting, state grants to help people rehab their houses. And the gentleman who was speaking to us was talking about the fact that it was a reimbursement grant, and he said, the state really wants to prevent fraud, and the city really wants to prevent fraud. I know that. I've heard it out of people's mouths. But in this case, and in the case of a reimbursement agreement, it's a tax on poor people. People need these funds. This program needs funds. I hear Mr. Frazier say that they have some issues. They've raised some flags about commingling between the profit and the for-profit. I hear that as someone's worried about fraud. So let's just get that out in the open. And the same thing with the cannabis grants. We've been slow walking the cannabis grants because people are afraid of fraud. Like, what are you afraid of? Ask yourself, think about it. Why are you only worried about fraud when it has to do with Black nonprofits? So, on a different topic, Chief, could you come forward? I have to ask you some questions. So, a couple of folks in public comments asked about a couple of issues that are in your purview. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to give us some information on that. So, are you aware of the allegations of human trafficking in the city of Springfield?
So as we all know, that has been reported multiple times previously, the FBI, Division of the State Police, have conducted investigations into human trafficking, continue to conduct investigations into human trafficking. Yes, so I am aware of it. I am aware of an ongoing investigation as it pertains to that.
Thank you so much for that. And then regarding ICE, immigrations and customs enforcement, the federal government's plans with migrants, I know that we have in Illinois, thankfully, a state statute that prevents local police departments from cooperating with ICE. I just wanted to hear from you your understanding of that and anything that you could say that would set our citizens at ease.
Sure. So every law enforcement jurisdiction in the state of Illinois is bound by the Trust Act, which was put into law in 2017. That specifically details and limits law enforcement's involvement with federal agents such as ICE when it comes to strictly immigration-related situations. Obviously, if there are individuals in our community who are illegal and they are committing crimes, that's a completely different story. They should be held to account like every other individual in our community. But the Springfield Police Department recently put out, with the help of Mr. Mordock's office, put out a department directive on the Trust Act. That was December we put that out. So all of our officers are once again familiarized with that law and exactly what it means.
Thank you so much. That's a comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's it.
Thank you, Alderwoman, and thank you, Chief. Alderman Williams?
Chief. So this awareness of investigation, dealing with trafficking and massage parlors. So by you acknowledging that you're aware, does that prevent local action?
I'm sorry, does it prevent?
Local actions.
Well, so you have city ordinances, which can still be enforced, which are completely different than criminal ordinances. You have federal statutes and you have state statutes. So the Springfield Police Department, when we investigate crimes in our community, are bound by the state statutes. So we investigate state-related crimes. The FBI in their jurisdiction would investigate federal crimes. And then we have the other branch, which is the city ordinance violations.
So any of these actions, would it hurt the FBI's investigation?
Well, I think one thing that you do anytime there's a criminal investigation or anything else is you want to make sure you're deconflicting with other agencies that may be involved. The last thing I want to do is, number one, get up here and say something that may impact an ongoing investigation. So I try and be very careful when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I'm always trying to explain to my constituents why it appears that we don't hear it. We don't hear the crowd when they tell us these things, but at the same time, our response could do this or make us talk about things that maybe we shouldn't. But I never understood why the police department didn't at least say that much so that those that are listening at least know, oh, well, there are investigations going on. I mean, until tonight, and until your question, really it was like no one even wanted to admit that.
Yeah, and I would hope it goes without saying, but I'm certainly going to say it, that our responsibility as law enforcement is to investigate every crime that's committed in our community. And that's what I'm committed to as a leader of this organization. Now, sometimes I don't publicly speak to parts of the investigation because I think that's extremely important that we don't share some of that information. But you have my commitment that my goal is to reduce crime at every level related to every crime, whether it be federal or state level.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer, and it's, and I did want to make a record so that some of the folks that are listening that worry me about this will say, well, Roy, how come you haven't asked them? Or Roy, how come you guys haven't said that? Because a lot of times we don't want to mess up. And so it's better to, kind of keep quiet. But
well,
Jennifer asked the question, I thought I'd go ahead and say, it's frustrating as an alderman sitting around this shoe and then, getting told that we don't care, we're not moving, we're not acting. That's rough, you know.
So let me just be very blunt and very honest, okay?
I can't
Yeah,
hear the audience.
you can ask members of the audience to cut the chatter, please. Thank you. Yes, Chief.
We've had a lot of discussion about massage parlors, right? So the Springfield Police Department is aware of alleged illegal activity that's it's happening in some of these massage parlors. And like I said, with any other crime, we are going to investigate that. And this should be a warning to anyone running any sort of illegal operation in our community, from illegal drug sales to prostitution to massage parlors, that the Springfield Police Department is not going to allow that. The mayor does not want that in her city. The alder people do not want that in this community. And I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that that doesn't happen in the city of Springfield. You have my word on that. The citizens have my word. That may mean that you don't see me parked out in front of a massage parlor. That doesn't mean that we're not doing our jobs.
Alderman Williams, do you have anything further?
I'm finished.
Thank you, sir. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief Scarlett, for saying that. I know, too, sometimes it's a little frustrating because we just had an individual that was murdered on the east side, but I even had to learn of myself that I think it was in the county boundaries and wasn't in our Springfield limits. And then we just had a situation, I think this was last Tuesday, out by the office. And we resolved that so quickly. And then you hear the community, particularly the black community, reaching out to us saying, just like y'all handled that so fast and got that person and they went to jail so quickly, why you don't do that over here? And that's not even my ward or my area, but we three are black, so we get a lot of those calls or people talking to us when we're out. So hearing you say this and letting everybody hear you speak like this, I think it does mean something. So you just coming and giving a speech and letting us know where you at, where you're standing on things, that does help. And then also too, to Alderwoman Nutriano's point, I'm from Chicago, so I see a lot of the videos, and it's very disturbing to see what ICE is doing right now, where they're going into people's homes. So if something like that happens, just because we heard someone from the audience bring that up and say what they heard may have been out at UIS, if something like that does occur, can you guys put something out to just let us know what's going on if it's brought to your attention? Just especially if people start reaching out to us, I like to tell them, I don't know, I'm trying to find out just like you are.
Yeah, and as it pertains to investigations through any federal government agency, I don't necessarily always have the luxury of knowing what's going on. So I'll just be very honest. They don't call the local leaders and share some of that sometimes.
But if we do start to see more of that ramping up, because we're only a few hours away, so if we start to see that ramping up coming here, would something be able to be put out if you are made aware of it versus us just seeing it on camera and it floating around on social media? That's all I'm asking.
Well, I want to make sure that the public's aware of the facts surrounding whatever is transpiring. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Thank you, Chief. Seeing no need for executive session this evening, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Good night, everybody. Have a safe trip home.